Good morning, members of the Fourth Estate. We are here to address you this morning upon the submission of 3 court petitions as of today. These petitions has culminated from the last 1-week tour of the Luo Nation, which concluded with a visit of the meeting with the Luo Council of Elders under Care Nyandiko Ongadi yesterday. And you can see the council members are here. We have the deputy chairman of the Luo Council Elders, Yalup Kair, and also we have the secretary, Silas Alala. Actually, this is going to be a very, very important because we are doing this Linda Jami together with Luo Council Elders. Kair gave us directive to save the Luo Nation by ensuring that Luos lives in peace with their neighbors and that the education of all Kenyans is not circumvented by the state. The first 2 cases at the East African Court of Justice and peace, we are seeking peace for Sondu and Migingo residents and their neighbors. The third one is at the High Court of Kenya, seeking justice for the 2023 KCSE examination results, which also have affected in a bigger magnitude the students from the Luo Nation. The first case for Sondu killings, we have to ask the question, why have we gone to East African Court of Justice? We note that the government of Kenya's failure to initiate a preventing measures, investigations, and or punishment of the Kalenjin all Kipsigis ethnic communities responsible for the continuous sporadic attacks of the Luo ethnic community around Sondu town or market center since 1991, with the blessings and support of the Kenyan law enforcers, provincial administrators, guised as intertribal clashes. The above acts of commission and omission by the government of the Republic of Kenya is violative of several international human rights conventions, the Constitution of Kenya, as well as the East African Community Treaty, and this honorable court is thus moved pursuant to its jurisdiction on human rights to provide redress, which has failed in Kenya. Now, with this, what are our asks? The first ask is that the East African Court of Justice declares these acts as acts of genocide. The second ask is that the government of Kenya is declared as being in violation of international human rights, which is enshrined and actually appended to by Kenyan government. The fourth ask is order Her Majesty the King of England to provide original map of these warring areas to the court so that the court can use them to find justice for the Luo Nation, and that including border disputes with the state of Uganda in Migingo. We also ask the court to order for the compensation of the Luo ethnic community seen as victims of these historical injustices that the government of Kenya has allowed, if not facilitated, to happen as they watch. We saw the current CS Kindiki went there and actually confessed in camera that there was kind of a compromise handling of the security officers, that they did not handle the Luo community with what we call fairness and justice, that they were bending towards one side as opposed to the other side. So those are the 2 cases which are the East African Court of Justice. The cases have been filed, they have been sent to Arusha, and we are waiting for direction. When directions are given, we shall let you know. The third case is on the petition on the KCSE. We have done deep research and found that the exams were intentionally and deliberately moderated by the Minister for Education, CS Machogu. The Luo students, in particular, were targeted, and that is why there is a school where all students got D's, and we find it completely unnatural that all Luo students get D's in one school. It even goes against the principle of normal distribution. In Siranga Secondary School in Ugenya Sub-County, in particular, students had a lot of hopes in humanities to boost them to get A's. But that didn't happen. In fact, students normally do better in KCSE exams than in mock. But this time, in particular, mock was an average of 7, but the final results, the average was 4. But before, the gap was between 7 and 9. So we see this gap to have completely been moderated. For instance, when we pick on what made students fail terribly, it's because the Kenya Kwanza administration ensured that students failed in humanities, subjects such as history and government, geography, agriculture, and religious education, which is normally taken in KCSE as booster subjects. This time they were not boosters, they were anti-boosters. We talked to a teacher who was an examiner of history paper 2 in one of the examination centers. His name we won't disclose for the sake of protection. He said it was intentionally undermarked. He said they had instructions from a verb to award 1 mark for a question that had 2 marks. Whereby a question that the marks was 2, they were told award a maximum of 1 mark. He said that the chief administrators, examiners, that is, assistant examiners, team leaders throughout were ready to execute this top-down instruction which came from above. They refused to listen to recommendations from the ordinary examiners, which is always the normal practice, which happen in other examination papers. It's clear that whenever examination papers have been taken to a center, a marking scheme is prepared by the chief examiners. It is presented by the assistant chief examiners. Then the other examiners give their opinion as to how the marking scheme has been done. They said in all other papers, this was done like in Swahili, English, maths. But when it came to humanities, the chief examiners refused totally to allow the ordinary examiners to give their opinions as regards to how the marking scheme was reached at. But in history, they never allowed any input. So because of this lack of participation in examination marking, we realized that the instructions came from State House to allow people fail. So what is our recommendation? We recommend that the government solves the problem that was caused by the confusion with the new grading systems with the Kenya Kwanza administration has put for the sake of corruption that is in the procurement process for individual benefits. That is not a coincidence because the President, William Ruto, who is currently the president, when he was a minister for education, he had actually said to be put as a policy that students who sit humanities exams should be receiving lower capitation. And you know, the president is a scientist, he's a botanist. He's not a humanity, he does not have strength in humanities. And I don't think he appreciates anything that does not look like him. As a minister, he recommended that we give lower capitation. And he lowered this capitation for students who are going to universities. He preferred science students to have more capitation over humanity students. We can now see the president wanted to give lower financial allocation to humanity students, has now succeeded by students now failing. And now they are being forced to go to TVET instead of going to universities. I think that it is not very fair because we have information that the KCA exams could have been released on 19th of December. But the ministry was told by NAT not to release those results so that people can have a good Christmas and New Year. And they waited until 8th of January to release them. And I can tell you, the education system in chaos. For example, in CBC, there's nothing going on there. We have found research in a school whereby there are only 2 teachers which are not qualified. So they are being forced to teach subjects in areas where they are not qualified. That's called a junior secondary school. A teacher who only knows CRE sometimes is teaching maths.